You can listen to West Africa Democracy Radio anywhere across Africa and Europe via satellite. Tune in on Eutelsat 16A at 16 degrees east with a frequency of 12687 MHz and a symbol rate of 30,000. Stay connected to the heartbeat of West Africa. WADR. We are your trusted voice across the region.
Monday to Sunday.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
All day. All year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WADR.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, the Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Coming up in the news, Captain Traoré presents positive assessment of fight against insecurity ahead of Burkina Faso's independence anniversary.
Several areas were recaptured in the month where our fighting forces landed. All enemy resistance opposing our forces was crushed.
African Development Bank approves over 100 million euros for Benin's agriculture sector. Ivorian opposition, PDC, nominates candidates for December 27 legislative election.
After a presidential election, we absolutely must ensure that the legislative elections produce an assembly that represents what Ivorians want.
In the Gambia, high financial requirement limits women and young people from contesting public office. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this evening. We begin this edition with a series of developments from the Central Sahel region. First, in Burkina Faso, which will celebrate its 65th independence anniversary on Friday. On the eve of the independence anniversary, the transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has presented a positive assessment of the security situation in the country. In his address to the nation, Captain Traoré said security remains a paramount concern and reassured the public about the security situation, stating that Burkina Faso is becoming a model. He maintains the counter-terrorism efforts, industrial and economic progress in Burkina Faso should inspire other nations. Here is an extract of Traoré's speech.
Several areas were recaptured in the month where our fighting forces landed and established themselves. All enemy resistance opposing our forces was crushed, and we suffered no loss of life during these offensives. Sovereignty is not just a word, it's a whole. To achieve our full and complete sovereignty, we had to go through a revolution. This decreed popular progressive revolution is on the way. Burkina Faso today is a showcase, a model. We are being watched, people are following us, and we have no choice but to succeed. And I am pleased to say that we are on the right track and that we will succeed. That is why I urge all those who are fighting to achieve this sovereignty, this true independence, to continue the fight. And all those who are still hesitant must join us and combine our efforts. All those who are communicating to raise awareness among our people must amplify their communication, intensify it, and redouble their efforts.
Burkina Faso's transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. In Nigeria, the government is ramping up diplomatic efforts to secure the release of soldiers who have been detained in Burkina Faso for the past 3 days. Authorities are also pushing for the return of the military aircraft currently held by Burkinabe officials. On Wednesday, Nigerian military sources confirmed that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is now fully engaged in resolving the issue. Abdullahi Hassan completes the story.
3 days after Nigerian military C-130 aircraft made an emergency landing in Bobo-Dioulasso, western Burkina Faso, the 11 Air Force personnel on board, along with the aircraft itself, remain in the custody of Burkinabe authorities. Negotiations are currently underway from Abuja to secure their release. Multiple sources confirm that the Nigerian embassy in Burkina Faso has opened discussions with the Burkinabe government. Military sources further indicate that Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is actively involved in the talks and that the crew's release is imminent. Burkinabe authorities earlier stated that the Nigerian Air Force aircraft landed on Monday without authorization, describing the incident as a violation of their airspace. The Nigerian Air Force, however, explained that the landing was a precautionary measure, noting that the aircraft was en route to Portugal for a ferry mission. Nigerian officials also emphasized that 11 crew members were safe and initially received a warm welcome from Burkinabe authorities. Regional analysts have cautioned that the matter should be handled with the utmost diplomacy to prevent escalation, especially given the sensitive relations between ECOWAS and the AES bloc.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. In neighboring Niger, citizens and civil society organizations are raising alarms about the declining state of human rights in the country. These concerns were highlighted on Wednesday during the commemoration of the 77th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Authorities, including civil society representatives and citizens, gathered on the theme, Social Cohesion, a Factor in the Realization of Human Rights. During the event, the Nigerian Network of Human Rights Defenders urged the transitional authorities to enhance their efforts in promoting human rights throughout Niger. Imo Edit has the details.
According to Nigerian authorities, this year's theme emphasizes a commitment to using social cohesion as a means to guarantee human rights. Aliyu Dauda is Niger's Minister of Justice.
However, our unity is currently threatened by certain unworthy and irresponsible behaviors. Indeed, some of our brothers and sisters, manipulated by shadowy forces, whether internal or external, or by international powers, they seek to divide our people, sow discord, and weaken our sovereignty.
However, Kani Abdullahi, the coordinator of Niger's Network of Human Rights Defenders, urges the authorities to ensure respect for human rights throughout the country.
Today, we know that from the perspective of economic, social and cultural rights, the government of Niger has much to do. From a security perspective, we know that under the orders of these faithless men who attack our peaceful citizens, Niger is doing a lot, but the government still has much to do.
This year's commemoration of Universal Human Rights Day highlights both the progress made and the ongoing challenges. Public and private actors are called upon to strengthen their efforts in promoting and upholding fundamental rights.
Imo Edit with the details of that report, filed by WADR's Niamey correspondent Mutala Zuberu.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, in politics, we turn to Cote d'Ivoire, where the opposition Democratic Party of Cote d'Ivoire, PDC, officially nominated its candidates for the December 27 legislative election. 163 candidates, both primary and alternative, received their letters of nomination on Wednesday. During the ceremony, PDC President Jan Cham delivered a video message from Paris. He once again contested the results of the last presidential election and urged his candidates to make the legislative elections a vote of democratic rebalancing for a break with the past and social justice.
After a presidential election whose outcome did not reflect the will of the Ivorian people, we absolutely must ensure that the legislative elections produce an assembly that represents what Ivorians want. Ivorians yearn for change and social justice. They want Cote d'Ivoire to be governed differently. They want an end to corruption. They want an education system and a healthcare system worthy of the name. Our struggle is a fight for dignity against violence and fear, for hope against injustice, for freedom against oppression. We must continue this peaceful struggle until victory in the legislative elections, which will give meaning to all the sacrifices made, all the sufferings, and sometimes the loss of life.
À toutes les souffrances et parfois aux pertes en vie humaine.
Tijan Cham is president of the PDCRDA in Côte d'Ivoire. In the agriculture sector, Benin is set to benefit from a financing grant of 102.1 million euros from the African Development Bank. On Wednesday, December 10, the Board of Directors of the African Development Bank approved this amount in Abidjan for the first phase of the agricultural transformation program in the Savannah zone of Benin. This support aims to sustainably strengthen national poultry meat production. The objective is to strengthen food sovereignty, improve nutritional security for the population, and stimulate inclusive economic development through job creation. Christopher Atijo tells us more.
The gradual implementation of the program will support the growth of the poultry sector, particularly broiler chicken production, which is very input intensive. Implemented between 2026 and 2030, the project plans to develop 120,000 hectares of maize and 80,000 hectares of soybeans, with an expected annual production of approximately 41,000 tons of poultry meat. Robert Musumbuku, the AFDB's country director in Benin, emphasized that beneficiaries will receive livestock kits, certified seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides. Smallholder farmers will also have access to portable equipment designed to improve planting and crop management. The initiative focuses on disseminating good agricultural practices, structured water management, climate change adaptation, and pest control. It also includes the creation of a multi-stakeholder platform for agroecological research and innovation dedicated to maize soybeans cropping system. Musumbuku maintains that the program encourages the use of climate resilience and nutrient-enriched seeds to optimize the productivity and nutritional value of local production. According to the AFDB, the implementation of the program in the Savannah region will directly benefit 50,000 people and indirectly benefit nearly 500,000 others, including at least 30% women in each targeted category.
Christopher, teacher, with that report. Meanwhile, a new report by media watchdog Reporters Without Borders, RSF, warns of increase in journalist assassination and heightened suppression worldwide, with West Africa among the regions of concern. The report highlights that in 2025 alone, 67 journalists lost their lives in the course of or in direct connection with their work. It also reveals increasing cases of arbitrary arrests, intimidation, violent attacks, and prolonged detentions of media workers, particularly in countries experiencing political instability, coups, or tightening military rule. RSF says journalists covering corruption, security, and governance issues remain the most targeted, while governments are increasingly using legal pressure, internet restrictions, and security agencies to silence dissenting voices. Sadibu Maran, director of RSF West Africa, will explain more in the subsequent part of this newscast. But let's cross over to Liberia, where mixed reactions are emerging following the House of Representatives' decision to add 14 seats to its membership. The vote took place during the plenary session on Tuesday and aims to reapportion various constituencies across the country in preparation for the 2029 general and presidential elections. This decision is based on a report submitted by the House's Joint Committee on Elections and Inauguration, Judiciary and Good Governance, as well as Government Reform, which outlines a framework for the reallotment. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
This session became quite noisy when the bill was introduced on the floor, with many lawmakers expressing their dissatisfaction. Representative Foley family supported the report, recommending that the Speaker fund a specialized committee to collaborate with the National Elections Commission and the Liberia Institute of Statistics and Geoinformation Services. This committee would ensure proper guidance and implementation for the reapportionment process. If the Liberian Senate approves the bill and President Bouaka signs it into law, Liberia's electoral districts will increase from 73 to 87. However, the decision has faced significant criticism. Former Speaker Fonati Kofa opposes the move, urging that it violates the Liberian Constitution. Mosorado County Senator Darius DeLong references Articles 80C and 80D of the 1986 Constitution, which regulate the allocation of representative seats.
We have 5.4 million people. If we have everything in place, are we ready for additional seats? As a country and people, I don't agree.
Meanwhile, Alvin Wise, a former assistant minister for agriculture, criticizes lawmakers who support the bill, while many other citizens are urging the president to veto the document if it is passed by the Senate.
We cannot continue to concur surreptitiously with bogus decisions. In my opinion, if the legislature is more serious, the legislature should be passing legislations that will say will produce 14,000 jobs or create 14,000 jobs for young people.
At this moment, civil society organizations are voicing concerns regarding Liberia's readiness to implement such a change, especially given the challenging living conditions for many citizens. These concerns underscore the socio-economic context surrounding this political decision. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Captain Traoré presents positive assessment of fight against insecurity ahead of Burkina Faso's independence anniversary. African Development Bank approves over 100 million euros for Benin's agriculture sector. Ivorian opposition PDC nominates candidates for December 27 legislative election. Still ahead, in the Gambia, high financial requirement limits women and young people from contesting public office. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's now take you to the Gambia, where rising cost of running for public office is excluding women, young people, and persons with disabilities, while strengthening the hold of political elites. The situation was revealed in a latest report released by the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. The study, titled Cost of Politics in the Gambia, a gender-inclusive assessment, points to a significant increase in nomination fees for parliamentary candidates, which have been set at 115,000 Gambian dollars under the elections bill passed in September 2025, compared to just $5,000 previously. The launch of the report brought together politicians and civil society representatives to discuss the findings and its implications. WADR's Banjul correspondent Sandona Mendy reports.
Released ahead of the 2026 presidential election, the report raises concern that financial pressures and deeply rooted social norms are disproportionately hindering women's access to public office. It also highlights the lack of transparency in campaign financing, warning that reliance on private funding could lead to state capture. Tabunjai Sar is country director for the Westminster Foundation for Democracy.
We cannot achieve genuine democracy without gender justice, and that gender justice must extend to everyone living in the society and the country at large, including women, and are surrounded with the many barriers that impede their advancement. So on behalf of WFD, I hope that the study will go a long way in addressing the financial cost of politics and open doors for the many aspiring women candidates. The road to equality is long, but today let us take an other bold step together.
Survey findings reveal significant disparities in campaign spending. While most candidates spend less than $1.1 million, approximately $15,000 have reported expenditures exceeding $3.3 million, equivalent to around $44,000, with social contributions representing the largest portion of their cost. Despite women making up 57% of registered voters, they hold only 5 out of 58 seats in the Gambia National Assembly. The study indicates that 64% of female respondents believe the agenda increases the cost of campaigning, whereas only 24% of male respondents share this perception. According to the authors of the report, comprehensive constitutional and electoral reforms are necessary to eliminate financial and structural barriers, ensuring that the country's political landscape reflects its population. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mende, reporting from Banjul.
At the same time, rural communities in Senegal and the Gambia are coming together to address the issue of digital violence, which poses a growing threat to women and young girls. Representatives from various communities in both countries gathered in the Senegalese village of Lingegia for a cross-border meeting aimed at uniting against this form of violence. Supported by Toast Town Senegal, Toast Town Gambia and UN Women, this meeting comes at the 16 days of activism draws to an end. It underscores how digital violence has quietly taken hold of women and girls, mostly in rural areas. Sankule Janko reports.
Under the shade of a wide canopy in the Senegalese village of Lingeja, just a few kilometers from the Gambian border, community leaders, parents, youth, and women's groups gathered with a shared purpose to protect young girls from a new and fast-spreading form of abuse, digital violence. For communities already struggling with challenges like early marriage, FGM, and limited opportunities for girls, the rise of smartphones has opened a new battleground. Fatoumata Jabi, a social mobilizer and women's federation group leader from the Gambia, explains.
Married women should first of all respect themselves. I have seen the damage done by digital violence. So many marriages ended because of mobile phone. Women make news of themselves in their phones and it destroys lots of marriages. People install video cameras in their houses and such leak will bring shame to your family, and it's happening in the society, causing so much pain for us.
Digital harassment, online humiliation, and manipulation were once seen as urban problems. However, Madi Kamara, a communication consultant for Tostan Senegal, says these harms are now increasingly felt in remote villages.
Everyone knows everyone. All the families are linked. They know each other. They go to each other's event. They see each other every day. So it's even more impactful here, like in a negative way. The communities in remote areas are the ones who feel it the most.
Local authorities reaffirmed Senegal's commitment to ending all forms of violence against women. From the Gambian side, Modou Lamin Jabate, Tostan coordinator for the Central River region, urged both governments to enforce existing laws to stop harmful practices from crossing the border.
If I have a child in the Gambia and then the Gambian law is barring me to do it to my girl child, I can manage to take it to a border country to my family members in Senegal for the girl to undergo that through that FGC. And then that is why we need the backings of the government too, because they are the enforcers of the law. So when things of that nature are happening, they must make sure that they apply laws to avoid future occurrence of some of those activities.
This week's gathering forms part of the Advocacy Action and Transformative Feminist Coalition, ACT, a regional initiative working across West and Central Africa. Its goal is to build alliances between communities, governments, religious leaders, and civil society so that violence, whether digital or physical, is confronted together.
Sankule Janko fight that report.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In our guest interview segment this evening, we are joined by Sadibou Marong, Director of Reporters Without Borders West Africa, for more analysis on the shrinking space of press freedom and journalists losing their life in the line of their duty. In RSF's 2025 report, 67 journalists lost their lives in the course of or in direct connection with their work. The report indicates that journalists covering corruption, security, and governance issues remain the most targeted, while governments are increasingly using legal pressure, internet restrictions, and security agencies to silence dissenting voices. Here is Sadibou Marong.
it is from our perspective, we are still believing again this year that journalists do not die, they are killed. And also the number of murdered journalists has risen again due to the criminal practice of military groups, both that are regular and paramilitary also, and also the organized crime. The situation is quite problematic and dramatic, and we have recorded that there is a hatred of journalists. It leads to death of 67 this year.
Well, let's narrow it down to our sub-region. What specific trends are we currently seeing in the sub-region, and how do they compare with broader description which you have given us?
I mean, if we come to the sub-region in West, or first of all in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have seen, for example, a country like Burundi, where we are still having the only female journalist still in jail, Sandra Muhoza. We have in West Africa, for example, those journalists who has been conscripted by force into the army. 7 of them now they have recovered their freedom. They have been detained for a long time and no one did know their whereabouts by the junta in Burkina Faso, for example. And we also have the case of journalists killed and but also who went missing as of today in Mali, in the Sahel. We also finally have the situation of Serge Oulon in Burkina Faso. He is still missing. And finally, we have the case of Guinea also, the case of Habib Marwan Kamara. No one knows where he is, despite all the efforts in terms of advocacy which has been done.
Now, how has political unrest in places like Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, or even Niger within the year influenced the safety and work environment of journalists?
This is the first dimension. Anytime like there is elections, most of the time, journalists, they are caught inside, everything, and even seen. I mean, there is a correlation between political unrest and political activities and the journalists' attack on journalists' instability as far as their work is concerned. In another hand, we have seen in other countries like in the Sahel and how it is more perceptible because there are no election there. This is very low and it carries a lot of disinformations. Now, what we are seeing is how junta, they are themselves having their own media.
Let's talk about regional protection mechanisms as we round up this conversation. We know that ECOWAS and the African Union do have a framework on human rights and press freedom. Of course, yet violations still persist. What practical steps should institutions like this take to better protect journalists and prevent the region's slide into deeper repression?
First of all, according to constitutions in all our countries, freedom of the press lies under freedom of expression in our constitutions. And if you have a look at all the constitution, you will see that the states must and should guarantee the freedom of expression. Those who are the very one people who needed to protect freedom of expression and freedom of the press are those who are jeopardizing that.
Sadibu Maron is director of Reporters Without Borders West Africa Bureau. In the world of sports, South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns put in a dominant display to defeat Otiwagongo Sports Academy of Namibia 16 goals to 0 in their second CAF Under-17 Girls Integrated Football Tournament Group A match at Ngoni Stadium near Harare on Thursday, where there was also a victory for host club Mponga Sports Academy. There have now been 48 goals scored in just 6 matches at the second edition of the CAF Under-17 Gift, with excellent attacking football on display and several memories finishes. Sundowns moved to the top of their pool on goal difference, but now face winner takes all clash with Mpoma Sports Academy on Sunday for a place in the grand final. The top 2 teams in each pool will contest the deciding match on December 18, 2025. And that's it in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end This edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. A many thanks to Fali Lusso and Mustafa Sek for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinion.